changes.
Time to face the change.
Exactly. No more, because then we get, I think, demonetized. I'm not monetized, like I'm making money off of this. No.
What? I was like, wait a second. How did you do that? I want to know. Share me your secrets.
All right, pivot to that. We're going to tell Adam how I'm making big money podcasting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't actually know where it will fully go for today, but I am Eric. My partner here is Adam. Not legally, just friendship partnerships. Don't get it twisted. We are happily married to other people. And this is my modern myth. Oh, questionable? Maybe we'll...
No, I was saying, like, I'm just leaving the door open there, Eric, just like, crack it, just a crack, no pun intended. Yeah.
Well, of course there is. You're the pun master,
always
so
intended.
I don't...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. You should
but
always
talk
intend
about
your puns. Don't be a wuss.
Just own it, man. Take up your space. That's going to be what we talk about, is ownership, and changes in life can feel shameful. And it's really silly that it feels shameful, but it doesn't. And I want to get into reasons why I think it does and what to do about it maybe. And I've got a few examples of the changes I'm going through in my life, both home, business, and exercise. So mind, body, story, like all of them are a change is a coming, and it's interesting. But the first one I'll get into is body. So I may be at the end of my jiu-jitsu career or my jiu-jitsu journey, and there is a lot wrapped in that. I'm hoping to go tomorrow. And one of my friends, he's a black belt, and he's doing his first class. This is his first foray into teaching that way. I mean, he's done instructionals and different things, but this will be a class led by him for 6 weeks. And I love learning from him, and I'm going to support him, but I don't know past that if I'm in it anymore, because it's taking a toll on my body. It is not a nice sport. It is, I'm 40, so I consider myself not a collegiate level athlete anymore. That door is closed, but my mind still thinks I am. And so I can't determine, and this is maybe a first talking point, sifting through all of that material of reasons why you might leave or you might stay, and sifting the truth from the excuses. And that's where I'm at with jiu-jitsu, is the truth is I can't lift weights when I do jiu-jitsu because my joints hurt too much. My tendons are too flared up. So if I even do one push-up, I can do one and I feel like there's some damage is going to occur. My rotator cuff, like all these different things, my knees and my low back, and it does not help any of those. Plus I've been, you get clubbed in the back of the head because someone's doing something real fast and it's basically a forearm smash to the back of your head, or the timer goes off, but they didn't hear it. So you let out, but then they just drive you into the ground because they're, going until someone pulls you off, and then you get your bell rung, you get your head smacked because you're letting people do stuff in training, and sometimes they go a little too aggressive and you weren't ready for it, and that's my fault too. I understand, ready at all times, but I have a TBI, and so those head hits to me make me dizzy, and they make me have migraines in the evening, so they really add up. And that's a fear thing for my family, that if it gets worse, I won't be able to do certain things because I lose parts of my cognitive abilities. So I'm very protective of that. So all those things are truths, and there's things I could do, I think, but do I want to stay in the sport? If I could have accommodations where I'm going to classes that are a lot more friendly, and then I'm like, but I don't really want to be in friendly jiu-jitsu. Then it's just like, I'll just
friendly
lift weights
jiu-jitsu.
It's like gentle rolling. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Gentle rolling is more like sushi. Sushi rolling. Yeah.
So I guess that's the first point is, how do you maybe sift through the truth versus the excuse? Because they're both valid.
Sure.
It's just one you don't want to use as your decision-making factor. So how have you been able to maybe sift through those things?
Yeah. I mean, I always try to look at those things like seasons. And I mean, for where I think you're going, because you opened this with talking about, the shame we feel and why that's kind of not a productive emotion. And I agree. In these situations, it is easy to shame ourselves because we feel like we're giving up on something. But, in reality, it's not that. We do go through seasons. A season ago, you were very passionate about it. It filled you up. It was, something that really energized you and you wanted to do. And there was something that changed, an external factor, maybe an internal factor, that was saying to you, hey, this isn't quite as safe right now for me. And there's other things in my life that I want to do that do fill me up, but they're not, but I don't feel like they're aligned at the moment. Weightlifting versus this. I remember when you were weightlifting and doing a lot of powerlifting, and that filled you up. So it's a matter of choice in that way, that in that case, it's one or the other and not both. And I actually just did a podcast on this on my show, Flow Over Fear, but about the vessel you have. We hear a lot of times, my cup is overflowing, right? Like my cup is overflowing with abundance and love and everything, and I just feel like so happy. But there's another, we're a vessel in a variety of ways. We're a vessel in that, we can contain all of this gratitude and it can overflow from us, but we also just contain a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes in. And if we're not careful, we could just keep putting too much in, or other people put stuff in our vessel. They walk by and they just like dump out their excess garbage or whatever, drama they want. And so we just get all of this other stuff that comes up, and, then it starts to overflow in not a good way. So we need to be conscious of that. And I think that that's the right step that you're taking, is you're just evaluating, am I filling my cup right now with the right things, the things that are filling, me up, to the point where I can add to the top of that mix of my vessel, this gratitude piece that helps it overflow in my life. And, being in karate, I can definitely relate to the idea of getting your bell rung and knocked a little bit too hard. I mean, I get knocked down, and if I don't slap out correctly, I'm like, it happened to me today. I was just like, I hit my head, and it's like oof. But and the other day we were doing defensive techniques, and I was doing it against one woman, and she just like super socked me, she's a little too aggressive, bruised my ribs, and I'm just like, for the whole day it was just like terrible. And so it's just that in karate, I see a lot of people that, that are in the mid belt range or so, and they come back after years of just like taking a step back for a while. And it's great because they're happy coming back. The last thing I think people want to do, or that you want to do if you're a listener or whatever, is do something that's not making you happy to the point where you never want to do it again. But maybe you just put it aside for now because it's a season.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, like you said, you're leaving the door open. It was a joke earlier, but that's I think the attitude shift is.
Are you saying there's a chance?
Yes. 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, absolutely. But for now, it feels like the right thing. And I think that vessel conversation is valid because of when you have enough changes, there's certain things that you need to protect, and there's certain things that you need to sacrifice. And right now, my family is where my focus needs to go. And doing things in the house is where my focus needs to go. And I can lift weights. I can do my training. So when I don't do jiu-jitsu, I'm doing 120, 130 push-ups a day. I'm doing, reps of, 10 or, not reps, but like 10 to 20 pull-ups in a day, just casually throughout the day, just to keep things, dips and squats and all that stuff throughout the day when I have time. Because it's, I believe, accumulation of work over the day versus just the 45 minutes straight thrashing exercise or whatever. It's you're training, you're telling your body, we do this much work in a day. And so as long as I'm doing it throughout the day or in a 2-hour period or whatever, it's all good. But I can step away and not feel that I'm being interrupted, that my flow is being interrupted, because I've set it up in a way that it needs the ability to be interrupted, because that's my life. And so when I go away, jiu-jitsu is an hour and a half plus an hour driving. So it's, it's not that much time. But if it's not filling up the cup, if it's creating my injury, if it's preventing me from doing other parts of things that I like to do that fill up my cup, then I have to look at that and step away. And I've done it once before where I stepped away for my tattoo, and that was, a month or two, and missed it. And I came back better, I came back stronger for it. And so my drive to get a belt color or anything is dead. I don't care about stripes anymore. I give them value, the ones that I had, but the idea of getting to the blue and the purple and all the advanced belts, there's part of me that felt overwhelmed by it because my memory is fatigued in a way, and I can't remember the moves. And I end up leaning on intuition and wrestling, and that's effective, but it's not jujitsu. So at a certain point, I become more of a wrestler trying to fight jujitsu players. And I'm just like, it gets frustrating because you're like, I can't remember because I have a memory issue. And that's a real thing. That's a real limitation. You know, there's a lot of things in my life that you would never expect me to struggle with until you live with me. And then you would be like, oh my gosh, this is really unexpected. And it's silly sometimes, but there's shame around that too, where I feel like presenting myself in one way, I'm limitless. I can do anything. But there's all this other stuff that you don't get to see. And I do. So then you don't understand the decision I'm making. So you make up your own story about why I'm making the decision. But did you make that story up in your head, or am I making that up that you make that up? Because you probably don't even think about me. And it's like the shame comes in when you're trying to project your ability to mind read everyone and make yourself big in their world when really you're not that big in their world. They might miss you. They might think about it. Oh, that's weird. They might even talk about it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But then they move on.
Yeah, they really do, and it all stays with us, and that's the kind of stuff that fills our cups, right? I mean, when somebody says that remark or thinks that thing about you that lasts 2 minutes in their mind, it actually enters into your vessel and it stays there, and it becomes a resentment, or it becomes this thing that you're thinking about, and you know, we really only have the capacity to have like 3 priorities in our lives, right? You know, so I mean, and Jim Collins says, if we have any more than that, you know, then you don't have any priorities. And I feel the same way about like just putting too much emphasis into our lives on the supplemental things that may not be serving us in the time that do affect our well-being and don't contribute to the betterment of our mental health and everything. So you mentioned staying home, being there at home. So that's a priority for you. What, if you don't mind me asking, what are your priorities?
The priority is definitely my children is the top priority, and making sure their experience is the one that they need to have. And that factors into the next change, which is I pulled Ella from her virtual school, and now I'm fully homeschooling her myself. And that starts on Monday. So that's going to require a lot more from me. And I've had really big issues with big changes or even small changes in routine. I need routine. My keys and my wallet have to be in the same place every single day. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll leave with one, not the other, or I'll completely have no idea where they are. So there's certain things that I have to do. And like if my wife sits in this chair, I freeze because I have no idea what to do because my routine is disrupted and I have to go through this certain pattern every day. Otherwise, my brain short circuits and it's like it branches off on this binary path. And I'm like, I have nothing. My skill tree is dead over here. So that's just another thing with my TBI, what I need. And so to do jujitsu 2-3 times a week and then start homeschooling my child completely. So that's 2 children that I'd be homeschooling. Yeah. That is a big shift. So I have to figure out how, because that's my priority. She needs that from me. And so that I can do, and I can also do my modern myth from home. I'm doing this in my kitchen. Right. So I can edit here. And there's also another, thing I want to talk about with my modern myth later that I'm really excited about. That's requiring a lot more time than I've ever invested into it before. So my priorities are my family and my modern myth and this new project that I'm developing.
Awesome. That's really, really great. Yeah. So I think that like answers your question there, because I mean, my belief is that if there was a question to be answered, which I guess there wasn't because you've already decided. I mean, like there's no question, but I mean, I think it at least it validates because you have these priorities, your kids, your podcast, this project, those should be driving all of your goals. And nowhere in there did I hear and jiu-jitsu black belt, that just doesn't, it's like, I mean, that's it's a supplemental and, that's great. My 3 priorities, it's kind of like my 3 priorities. Like, my priorities are my kids. Fuck my kids. I'm just joking. I didn't say that.
It's like the thing you have to say, my children. And then it's
right. My gorgeous wife. And,
yeah. Do you ever have that where people tell me about yourself and you're like, I'm a Army veteran. I have this business. I went and did this. Ironman, 2-time Ironman triathlete, blah, blah, blah. And then they goes to the next person. They start out with, well, I'm a lucky husband to a beautiful wife and a father with 3 beautiful angels. And I'm like, I also have a wife and children. I just,
you're like,
you feel like an idiot because
you're
you didn't prioritize.
Everybody's looking at you. Yeah, fucking Army veteran. That's your.
Yeah, that's who you are. Screw your family, huh? No, I love them. Sorry.
That's funny. Yeah, I get that too. It's just like, yeah, one upper. Really? Oh my gosh, pander. Yeah, no, but really, my priorities though are my spiritual development, like just growing spiritually. Also setting up my kids to be, and yeah, so my kids are my priority. I'm not,
boom,
all that joking aside.
So you are a good man.
I am a good man. I do not say fuck my children all the time unless I'm joking.
I'd like to talk to you about parenting is the next transition. Right. That's not good. I think we can all agree that is not a good modality.
Not good. Not good. I'm waiting for that time when I run for political office and they pull that feed. It just runs over and over on CNN.
Kids.
But yeah, so just setting my kids up to be self-sustaining and compassionate adults. And then the third one is leaning into all the creative ventures. And so things like if I'm like, I'm starting a comedy class tomorrow, like not giving one, I'm going to be participating in one for stand-up comedy. It's a bucket list item. I thought it had been a shiny object for a while, but then I'd set up my 3 priorities and I'm like, hey, you know what? That's aligned because it's a creative outlet. It's helping me develop creatively in other ways. It's aligned with my speaking and podcasting and all of that. So I can continue to entertain people with my vast amounts of humor, and then do it better. But so that's kind of that. It opens the door up. I think when we actually learn what our priorities are, that it doesn't. It feels like, oh, I'm only setting 3 priorities in my life to like go after. It feels restrictive, but in reality, it's the most freeing thing you could do because it just tells you these are the things that are going to fill me up. And I'm going to go all in on those. And it's great. So, yeah.
Well, that's mind, body, story. That's the 3 things we own. Yeah. So I think there's a reason that we have a lot of groups of 3. And that is a very balanced number. And it's also imbalanced. Like that's the weird part about it. The 4 would be the balanced, number. But 3 is a strong, like a triangle is a very, very strong shape. So you can look at the numbers and you can say 10 people. You can only know 10 people really well. But I mean, I've changed that to less than 5, maybe even 3. Like that it's really hard to intimately, deeply know that many people and keep all of that energy in your head. But
we live in a 3-dimensional world too. So
living on a 4D timeline. Mm-hmm. But if you fold it, then it's the 8th dimension, and then I still think that they just make stuff up. Like, there's 17 dimensions, because if you fold that again, then you're in the 34th dimension. And if you take that one, and then you fold that, and now you're cutting through 16 dimensions. I'm like, we're not folding space and time, guys, okay? Yeah. I don't think we're anywhere close to that reality. But theoretically, do we need that level of theoretical physics? I feel for like screenwriting, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, theoretically, anything is possible in an infinite universe. Mm-hmm. I mean, so I could say a dinosaur is having sex with an elf queen in the land of Pandagunia, and it is true because it's an infinite universe. Because somewhere in infinity that is happening.
Thank you, Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But the other part to lean into this family part is homeschooling. There is shame in that when I tell people sometimes, because I'm worried of the connotation that homeschool brings up in people. I mean, it's one of those buzzwords where they think, what do you call it? Unable to function in social settings, no friends, weird, whatever image you have. I'm sure there can be these negative ones. And we're not like that. The issue, I've worked with the school for a bit, and it's been 3 years that we've tried, to make it work. And I think there's been progress, right? But at a certain time, you get this momentum in any given thing. And when you get the momentum, you start to have clarity in if this is for you, if this isn't for you, if there's an adjustment that can be made to make it for you, or if you need to go somewhere else. And that's everything. That's jujitsu, that's weightlifting, that's a career, that's a relationship that you're exploring. So with my daughter, my oldest daughter, it just was time that she was learning and growing, but the public school system has a different path that I don't agree with for her. There are people on my street that their kids thrive in public school. These kids are going to be engineers. They're going to go on to graduate school probably. And that's the track. Public school is the track to get you ready for college. And if you need to go to college, it is a great track for you to be on because you need these skills. Because if you're going to be a surgeon, there's certain skills, there's certain habits you need to develop because you're going to be in this path for life, really. Because even once you're a doctor, you're still researching, you're still writing papers, you're not stopping, be like, oh, I know how to do brain surgery, so I'm going to just not learn anymore. Like, you're a lifelong learner. But if you're not going to be these things, it made me be like, oh, finally, I graduated. I never have to learn again. And that is a very common voice in children throughout the decades. And that should never be the diploma has received, and now I'm tearing up education because thank God I don't have to do that anymore. And that's the trend that my daughter was experiencing. And she is incredibly creative. And she has her, I was able to get accommodations met where she could creatively modify the assignment to express her unique skills. And they loved it because she's beyond her years in writing. And it's just something to watch. And I'm like, I want to foster that. I want to empower you. And we learn math. If you can learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, you're good.
Yeah.
If you can be proficient in that, you got budgeting, you got those things, you're going to be fine. But if you don't have those building blocks and now you're in this level of math and you're here still in your competency, I'm stupid. That's the feeling that gets associated with someone because of the high level math that they can't do or the high level writing they can't do because they are still here because the foundations weren't laid strong enough in a way that they understood. And now it's a learning disability. Now it's something else. We have to medicate. We have to get really strict. And I'm like, no, that's when we start smashing who he is, and make them something else so that we're comfortable. I have to exhibit patience. It's the long game. That's what I tell my family all the time. We're playing a long game here. This is about a lifetime path that we're on, and we cannot wrestle it into submission because if you do that, you're doing it for a reason that isn't true to you. You didn't understand why, except for I'm avoiding a penalty. I'm avoiding a consequence, so I must follow this path. No, conversation over consequence. We have time. There's time on the clock. We don't have to do algebra in 7th grade. We're going to be okay. She's really advanced in this area. Honor that. But it's overshadowed by a misunderstanding that we have over here because the foundations weren't ironed in and it went beyond it. And now I get to pull back and say, let's get down into the fundamentals and let's fall in love with them because those are the building blocks that encourage and empower you to go seek more. So she's going to work with me to build her own curriculum. What do you want to learn today? What are we studying this week in history? It could be anything. History is a huge thing, but if you have a part you're interested in, you're going to listen, you're going to learn, you're going to do research. We're going to figure all that stuff out. We're going to learn PowerPoint. We're going to learn Canva, whatever it is, digital design. These are all valuable skills, but each child who doesn't fit into the public school model is not to be shamed. They're to be empowered so that they can go think differently. The public school model is one that honors not creativity, it honors conscientiousness. The ones who need the rules, who need to know the playing field so they can stay within those confines. And that is necessary to our infrastructure and to our life, but we have to create a path for those creatives, those who think differently, because those are the drivers of innovation. And public school wants to get rid of that in many ways. Not everybody, but it doesn't doesn't work for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, especially with regard to public school. I mean, and we hear it a lot. And I know there's been a stigma with homeschooling, that's like feeling like, oh, you're sheltering this person and you're putting them into a cult just so you could indoctrinate them with the Christian value of what. I know so many people, and you're not alone, Eric, with regard to like homeschooling now, including we we homeschooled our kids for a long time until it became too much for us given our daughter's situation. But I know so many people who are doing that and thriving in it. I think it's a much more valid type of schooling practice, because especially in this day and age, we have the ability to socialize outside of a school always, and that socialization, by the way, is more powerful in a lot of ways, because it's not just a cohort of the same people that are your age in your neighborhood going to the same school and the same basically class structure. You're actually taking these kids to different cohorts, like a museum or like an experience, or maybe a park day or something like that, where they're socializing with different age groups, a whole diverse array of people, and they're gaining more worldly knowledge from that sense, and they have more freedom, because let's face it, I respect teachers for everything they do, especially in public school. It's a lot, but you have 30 kids in a room, and it takes an hour to teach a subject at a time, in a time frame that actually could take a fraction of that time, and you could do the curriculum in 2 hours or less of regular school day, and then get on to the important stuff. And yes, I said it, the important stuff, the stuff that fills us up, stuff that fills us and your kids up.
Heck yeah. Well, and it's also this idea that, so it's not that I want everyone to homeschool. Like you said, it's not for everybody. And sometimes it's only for a season. That's the theme of this show, is changes. My kids have done public school, they've done homeschool, they've done virtual school, they've gone to public school again and come back, because you don't know until you go try something. That's the whole point. So in 2 weeks, Ella is going to go to acting class. It's a 6-week course or something like that. But she's going to explore it. She's nervous. I mean, she doesn't really want to do it, but we signed her up, and she's acted in our videos at home and stuff. And it's just a nervous thing. And I understand, because we have no idea what to expect. Yeah. But we show up to the environment, and I'm not saying you have to finish the whole 6 weeks and, oh, you're a quitter, like this whole quitter culture. I'm like, no, you have to be given the chance to, because the honorable thing isn't to just force yourself through everything you hate. It's to learn what you love and what you don't love, because there are certain things that I have an endless reserve of energy to go do. I have almost a compulsion to do it, but I also don't have to. So it's not an addiction. It's just a really strong drive. And there's a difference. Like, if I'm angry at people because they're preventing me from doing this thing, that's not connected to spirit or growth. And what you're compelled to do have to be connected to spirit and growth. Otherwise, they're an addiction. And so finding those things requires you to try many things, because you just don't know. And the freedom to leave something seems like, oh, parents will be like, oh, it's a easy way out. They're just going to say it for everything. They won't.
Right.
They won't. If my children feel that they have autonomy, that they're in control, and I have boundaries up, and I might force you down this path that you don't want to go down, but you at least need to expose yourself to it, because I'm not going to put you in an environment that's dangerous or reckless. That's not my job. My job is to push you a little bit beyond where you're comfortable. And if it's not for you truly, and we have that conversation, you're out. But give it a few classes. Try it, because it just might have been an author. You can't do it once. I mean, you could show up to something once and it turns out to be a satanic sex cult, and you can probably leave that immediately if it's not your thing.
I mean, maybe it's your thing.
Maybe it is. And you're like, oh, I hate this. This is terrible. I wonder what's going to happen next week. Probably be terrible. But I won't know. I heard Eric say, I won't know unless I try.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to join a satanic death cult or sex cult, it's a sex cult. Yeah.
Whoa. Interesting.
Are
they the same thing?
Maybe they're both the same thing. But if you're going to join that, don't be a quitter. Yeah. Just follow through. Yeah. Is that what I'm understanding that, right?
That's the vibe.
Okay.
That's the changes we're looking for in life. Good. Don't be a one-hitter quitter.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Right. No, yeah.
But
it's
the shame that you feel is not just, shame is an emotion that we feel, and it tells us something. It's an extreme form of embarrassment, and that means we're not proud. And so we have to ask ourselves, is there something that we shouldn't be proud of? And usually when you're not proud of yourself, it's because you're acting in a way that isn't authentic to who you are. And I don't mean authentic self of, my personal identity is more important than anything. But there's fundamental core elements of who you are. And if you're not in line with that, your spirit gives you cues called shame and embarrassment, amongst others. And those are your guiding force to really look at. Were you doing something for a reason that's not true to your fundamental core? Did I try to be funny right now because I need that validation? Because if I'm embarrassed, then I was probably acting in a way that wasn't real. I was manipulating. I was doing something. But if because I've told jokes before and they didn't get a laugh and I'm fine. But if I look at it, I was doing the thing again where I feel disconnected. So I'm trying to make the attention on me. And it didn't go well. So there's a benefit to shame and embarrassment if we learn how to use it. And so in this case, this shame and embarrassment, it's not valid because sometimes you can discredit it and be like, oh, there is nothing. This is a societal impression that's been placed upon me. And so that's also important. Is it real? And if it is, well, then we can address it. But if it isn't, it's because I've grown up in a society that made me believe and suppress certain things about myself. And I'm feeling like I'm pushing up against those barriers and boundaries. And I'm pursuing my belief of what's best for my family unit. And I know them better than anyone. So, okay, that's fine. I can push through it. And it's just going to be really uncomfortable.
That's one of those things where we have to, we just have to be conscious of, I think, where our priorities lie. I mean, I think it all gets back to, what do we prioritize? And if that changes, is the shame productive? In my experience, shame has really never been a productive emotion, but it has signaled that where I, like you say, where I've, where I need to change something. It's just, I think shame has existed for me as a way of, or at least how I've lived in shame is shame is how I'm going to feel, even if I don't change. And maybe that's the signal, is that, hey, maybe you do need to change from the behavior that you're doing. It's still there. Guilt is one of my favorite flavors of suffering, but and it comes from my desire to please people and everything like that. Which, but it's just it's a constant thing that we have to work on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I have a whole course that I'm developing called The Language of Emotions, and how everyone tells us something. So they all have a purpose and they're all beneficial because, I say emotions never lie, but they're not always telling the truth.
Yeah.
But they're alerting you. It's an alert. It's just a GPS signal that's guiding you to your fundamental core. And it's like, oh, here's the turn you need to make. And then one example I liked with shame was, there's a lot of people talking about NoFap, and porn and all of this and the detriment that it is, or in some people are like, hell no, it's not a detriment. It actually enhances intimacy. So you have these camps, and how can they both be right? So is one of them wrong? Are both of them wrong? Is there a middle ground?
Yeah.
Well, the middle ground is it's not the thing. It's how we're using the thing, whatever it is. You can say guns or television shows, books. Your business can be used for horrible things too. It's how you're using any given thing. And so the shame comes in if you were to, look at porn and feel shame. Well, there's a conversation you need to have with yourself. Why do you feel shame? And then, it could be, what are you avoiding through this process? Well, I'm afraid that I've lost connection with my wife. Ooh. Oh, that's a big deal. So I'm going to this because I can't get it there. Why can't you get it there? Why aren't you going and talking? Well, because I'm afraid that I'm not enough for her, that I've let her down, and I'd rather just do this and ignore the fact that I have to make these changes and have these conversations where it's going to be put in my face that I'm not doing great.
Yeah.
So now you're understanding that shame is trying to rescue you, but you can't be rescued unless you take the first step. Otherwise, shame will kill you because it puts you in silence. Shame is the seed of silence because it's only existed if you're silent. So if you don't know that, you just keep following things and you call it fate and this is just my life and I'm an asshole, or I just get mad and you have to deal with it. No, you're missing every single signal that your spirit is trying to bring you, because the subconscious is way smarter than you know, but it's also secretive. It's not obvious. It's not going to do everything for you. And a great teacher isn't going to do everything for their student either. So your subconscious isn't here to just tell you the truth. It's here to remind you that truth exists and you need to go look for it, because it's in the journey that the growth and transformation happens. The magic pill exists, but it's up at the top of a mountain, wedged into this fissure between an active lava flow, and you have to cross a desert to get to it and climb up this mountain and cut and bruise yourself without water. You're going up Mordor, right? You get to the magic pill at this mountain, you're like, I don't even need this because I'm a different person now.
Oh wow,
So
David Goggins just walked in. He just told me he's like, hey, you said there was some kind of desert I need to cross and a mountain I need to climb and get some,
it's something about Mordor.
Yeah.
How
Mordor's
heavy is this
easy.
ring? Is it a 50-pound ring? It's not a kettlebell, but it's a ring. Ooh, hey, how about that for the Lord of the Rings fans? Kettlebells, but they're actually just weighted rings with
Oh, yeah?
Elvish written on them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think there's
probably
a
a thing.
whole idea there where we could go totally fantasy gym. Like ring kettlebells. I mean, like
swords.
like bow staff barbells kind of thing. Oh
Heck
my
yeah.
gosh, yeah! It's all like cosplay. I mean, so you are so anybody that's coming there has to dress up, or you have to be a monk or
Yes.
a rogue. I mean, this
Theme
is
nights.
great. Yeah, and you have to roll for initiative if you want to work out on a bench or something.
Yeah, just take all of that awkwardness out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 4 priorities. I'd like
All
to
right.
add this to the list.
Yes.
As we were saying, it's 4 priorities is the most that you can have.
This is not a shiny object, folks. This is destiny.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
It's going to work.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe someone will run with that idea.
I'm sure. I'm
the-
sure somebody has or will. Yes.
It would be interesting to see. I mean, as funny as it is, the mind body story thing would, if you can theme something in a way that gets people to move their bodies, and like I think of that LARPing as a very physical. I wouldn't do it, but I'm like, hey, good, get out there. Like you're in your virtual world, you're in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and if you're going out there and you're physically fighting other people with, foam swords or whatever, you're out there running around and you're being physical. And I think there's value in that. If you can find a way that you passionately love to move your body and get that energy out, you're balancing yourself. So as funny as that is, that would be, if that legitimately got millions of people or whatever to go to the gym and enjoy it, that would be incredible.
They would. Yeah. That's it. That's yeah. I mean, and there have been more ridiculous ideas that have seen the light of day and have come out. So yeah, I think
Ever
there's
gone to
that.
Orange Theory?
No. And it's one of those things, how when you hear about something so often,
Yeah.
you just hate it on principle.
It's true. I have no idea what it is, but I hate it.
I don't know what it is, but so many people have told me about how awesome it is. I just hate it now. It's like the dumbest idea in the world.
This
But
is
that's-
your
that's why I-
old man showing.
Right.
Ah, you damn Orange Theory. Back in my day, we worked under luminescent lights of yellow
Yeah.
or white, not orange.
Yeah, I don't know. I shy away. I tend to shy away from the competition-based fitness kind of programs that I think Orange Theory kind of think, because once we get to a competition mode, we start to alienate people who just want to get themselves back in gear. I understand, and we alienate people who just want to be competitive with themselves, which,
Sure.
Ultimately started when I started getting into triathlon. I was like, I don't want to compete against others. I want to compete against myself. And I ultimately got to a point where, I was one of the, best amateurs in the country. But for some people it works, for some people it doesn't. But I think
Sure.
we tend to alienate more the people that are more wanting to compete against themselves or just get better for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's places for everybody, right? And I don't need to shame anyone. If it's working
Yeah.
for you, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
don't shame me for my jiu-jitsu or my triathlon or my weightlifting just because I want to be a meathead. No.
Right.
Not
yeah.
oftentimes we shame someone because we don't understand.
Yeah, yeah. Which I don't understand Orange Theory. So that was, I guess your statement there was verified by me not understanding and then shaming Orange
That's right.
Theory. So
This is what we do.
yep.
It's
And
called
then
growth.
there's I don't know what F45 is either, and I
haven't heard of
place
that.
Too. Yeah, it's another place that I think is a fitness club. I think they have a set of numbers there, except 45 because F45. That's what they're trying to do.
I've been trying to get 245s on a barbell for a long time.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to F them.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like
all
my target.
44.5. Yeah, it's 44.5 pounds is what they have on the barbells. So
That's
yep.
that's a
Do
theory.
that. Yes,
That's a gimmick. It works.
F45. Yep.
So my business idea that's been taking up a lot of my excitement and becoming a very big part of my life, so much so that I haven't even edited last week's podcast, so I'm a week behind. So it's going to be a 2 weeks after Christmas episode, but that's fine. So I've talked about tarot cards with you a long time and for a long time, and there's shame around tarot cards, and I'm so my belief on tarot cards is I get shame from the people who think they're the devil's cards or they're demonic in some way, and then when I share my true opinion of the benefit of them, I can get shame from the tarot community because I'm taking the divination element out of it, saying you're not supposed to read the future with the cards. You're supposed to connect with what's inside you and unlock what's inside. Because how many times have you sat down with a person and not knowing what to talk about? You could literally pull a tarot card out, and based on the interpretation of that card or the imagery of what does this make you think of, you could have a conversation. So there's a lot of benefit to them, and the messages that I get aren't ever going to be, ooh, in 2 months you're going to meet the love of your life, or in 3 months, mark the calendar, you're going to get a big job promotion if you do the right stuff. No, I don't like that. But what I do like is letting it prompt you to say, where have you abdicated your throne of power? In what part of your life are you giving your personal power to somebody else? And then sit and reflect on that and be like, where am I doing that? Oh, I'm doing that here. And then you can be aware. So it's an awareness. It's an awareness puller in a sense. And it's also a creative exercise as well. So I'm designing my own Hero's Journey cards. And I've done I think 5 up to this point. And I'm working on the 6th one, and I'm having a blast because through that creative expression, I'm finding connections to my own art, creating connections that I didn't mean to create. And then once I see them, I can enhance that connection between 2 cards. And there's a story evolving. I've been working on this for 2 years, off and on. And I finally have a really solid head of steam behind it. And I have a brand that's developing, and it's going to hold it. And that is changing fundamentally everything about what I'm doing here. Is all of my philosophies are going to be put into these cards and into education around them. So it's less a platform of one-on-one coaching or maybe goal setting and things that I had these seminars planned for, but it's going to be centered around what these cards do. And I have a plan for another deck, and all of them are going to be philosophies for my modern myth and how I've saved my own life, because we've talked about it many times. Nothing that we do is meant to save anyone's life. It's simply, this is what we have done. This is how I have found sanity. I have found salvation. I have found growth. Whatever you're finding, you're then giving that to other people so that they can look at for themselves and say, can I apply this? And so the way I do that here has been, I'm not really connecting with it. And then I find this, which ties so many passions together. It's the magnifying glass principle, that I have all of these things. That's the sun. And when I hold the magnifying glass up, it funnels all of these passions, all of these bits of myself into this. And when I get that the right distance away, it puts the page on fire, right? Like it heats it up, and that's when you get cooking. And so now every time I do that, that iteration is the adjusting of the magnifying glass. And there's this, what is it called? I call it Ikigai, but it's a Japanese Ikagi or Ikigai.
I think it is Ikigai. Yeah.
But it's that. It's all of that's more of a businessy kind of what the world needs, what you are good at.
That's also what the ladies call me, by the way. Ikigai.
Hell yeah. I don't think that was a compliment, Adam.
I don't know. It sounds pretty nice.
But it's that principle too. And anytime you think you created something original, just give it a week and you'll find someone else 2,000 years ago and said it too. You're like, damn it. Okay, right. Whatever. Magnifying glass principle, Ikigai, whatever. But I've been really passionate about that and having a blast, and that's making me grow, and it's giving me months and months of things that I can look forward to. And I think that's important too, is when you find something that you can be like, oh my gosh, I don't even have to think about a year from now, because I know I've got enough stuff to focus on that I love for the next year. So I'm just going to be present in that. And I'm going to leave jiu-jitsu, unfortunately, and work out in my home and find joy in that, and be available to my children to step away from my art, from my stuff, to go teach, to do whatever I have to do here, so that I can make all of my priorities under one roof to a certain degree.
That sounds like a good plan, because it's specific and you're going after it. So yeah, kudos to you, brother.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of work ahead of me, and I think even my social media, I kind of haven't been posting on that very much, because I've just been really investing in this because I think there's a need.
Have you started to disappear yet? Like
No, I haven't.
Oh, really?
Isn't that weird? I thought I would.
I thought that was like the Back to the Future.
Yeah. You stop posting on Instagram?
Yeah, effect. Yeah, you stop posting on Instagram, you start to disappear. It's like your hand goes away, and you're like, I was never born.
No. I wish I had a opacity filter on the camera that I could just start to mess with right now.
Right.
Just every episode I get a little less.
A little
less.
Until you
All of a
finally
sudden.
post yourself, like, singing Johnny Be Good on Instagram. You're like,
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Yep.
Until next time, journey well, my friends.